Griff, welcome. Thanks for coming on, mate. Need no introduction, but I'll just give you one. Top scorer 7 seasons in a row. Second on the all-time list. 271 I've got here. You've probably scored a few for Penny Bond that might not have been added to that. So you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong.
That's about right, I think.
271 in 343. That's pretty good going. A 3-time winner of the Player of the Year. You've won the League Cup, Welsh Cup, the League. And just looking at some of your stats in Europe as well. Scored a hat-trick in the Intertoto. Got how many goals in Europe did you get in total? Can you remember?
I think 4. I think it was 4.
Right. So good going, mate. If we look at current football and stuff, I mean, who do you enjoy watching in the Premier League?
Well, I'm an Everton fan.
Yeah.
They'll raise some eyebrows, but I'm an Everton fan. I've been since the 80s, mid 80s. So I watch Everton as much as I can, but
yeah.
I love watching Man City. You know, it's a predictable answer, but I love watching Man City. But to be quite honest with you, whenever I get a chance to watch a football match, unless it's Everton or Wales, I think I should be watching a Welsh Prem game. So, you know, I do, don't get me wrong, I watched Chelsea Real this week.
Yeah.
I watched Man City PSG, but most of the time I'll think, no, I better sit down and watch Canavo versus Barry or whoever it might be, because
I feel like you're missing out otherwise.
The work's never done, as you know.
Yeah, that's right. You talk about Man City and Chelsea there, but if you look at, you know, a manager coming in like Tuchel and changing the formation straight away, changing a whole, you know, process or whatever he's done there with the same players, you know, that's really, you know, he's done really well, hasn't he? And then that short time of what he's done with that squad has been fantastic, and I've enjoyed watching him.
Yeah, I think before I started management, I didn't probably think, other than the initial kind of players knuckling down because there's a new manager, that sort of new manager factor, I didn't think they could make that much of an impact. But now I am a manager, I can see how you can, if you've got a certain way of doing certain things, or you can really make a big difference. So yeah, I'm not surprised that impact can happen. And actually not surprised because he's got obviously pedigree.
Yeah, it's good to watch. It's going to be a decent final. Who's going to win it?
I hope Man City win it. I really do. More than anything, because I just think as a club, I went there a few years ago to watch Everton play. Someone I met through my B licence and A licence, Mark Allen, who's now with Swansea, he got me tickets because he was at Man City at the time. So I turned up with Richard Carter, ex-Welsh Prem player, and just thinking I'd just go and watch a football match. Well, the way they looked after us, 5-course meal, showed us around, we were meeting stars. It was just the whole experience made Man City my second club, if I'm allowed one. So I hope Man City win. I think they deserve to win it as a club, and the way they approach the game, which is the best way to play football, not necessarily the right way, but it is, you know, obviously it's so pleasing to watch. So I hope they win it, but more than anything, I hope it's just a good game.
Yeah, like you say, they're at the top for a reason, you know, and treating people like that as well. You look at that, don't you, and you think, if the top people can treat people like that, then everyone should do the same, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
So if we look at your early years, who were the big influences on your career? Why did you get into football? And at the time, as a striker, who would you be saying, that's the player that I would watch? That's the player that I would watch the movement and how they do things, and go from there.
My dad was a really great sportsman. In Welsh international tennis, squash. He was a good rugby player, good footballer. He was a good trampolinist, believe it or not. Like a real all-rounder. So he got me into lots of different sports, and football was the one that just took hold of me. Because probably he would have rather I'd gone into racket sports, I'd imagine, although he didn't really push me in any direction. But my older brother was a Liverpool fan, so I naturally became an Everton fan. You know, we had
to go against him,
We had red and blue, so I had to go the opposite. And then those early or I should say late 80s finals of 86 and then particularly 89 when Stuart McCall scored the brace but Liverpool won it. They just gripped me. And then the biggest factor then, which was hook, line and sinker, was Italia 90. I was 10. I was already into football, but the music from Pavarotti, Baggio, who was my first kind of favourite player, if you like. Yeah. Just everything. I think Italy is a favourite country of mine anyway, so that probably had a factor even in that early days. I was thinking that place looks amazing. So Italia 90, that was it then. In terms of influences, the obvious answer, I love Duncan Ferguson. And later on, as I got into my late teens, I was watching John Hartson a lot as well. I remember watching John play against Argentina for Wales. It was a 0-0 draw at the Arms Park. And I presume it was at the Arms Park, it may have been at the Millennium Stadium. Yeah. And I remember he didn't lose a header, but he didn't leave the floor once either. And I just remember thinking, wow, how is he pinning those players all the time? So John Hartson and Duncan Ferguson, the main two, although my wall was littered with, it wasn't just Everton players, it was any good player that wasn't with Liverpool, basically. So yeah, I always studied individual players, but the main influence, I think, really is my parents, and particularly my dad. Just ethically, the way he was always saying to me, you've got to work hard, play hard, it just, those, I think if you were to speak to people who've played with me, my work ethic was always something that stood out, probably more than talent or anything like that. And that certainly came from my parents. So that they're the main influences.
Yeah, good. So if we go off a little bit, but top 3 players of all time. So you've talked about Ferguson, talked about Hartson, from back whenever really until the present. Top 3 players, who would you say, they could be in your 3, but in different positions, not just centre forwards?
Yeah, I would. The first thing I would say, I texted Chris Venables the other day after he got his 200th goal, and I said, "You're in the conversation." And what I meant by that is you're in the conversation for the best ever Welsh Premier player, which for me, nobody is in that conversation now. And I think as a footballer, whether you're trying to be the best in the Welsh Prem or the best in history, if you're in the conversation, you've won. I don't imagine that Messi's at home worrying that some people think Ronaldo's better. But for me personally, I would say Messi, Maradona, and Dixie Dean. But no, I had to give Dixie a mention. But no, I'd say Messi, Maradona, and then after those two, I'd be struggling. I think you've got your Pelés, Johan Cruyff, Baggio, Zidane. So difficult after those two, but I think Messi and Maradona stand shoulders ahead for me.
Yeah, I just remember growing up, and obviously Gaza, and then you've got other. For me, it was always Steven Gerrard and Zinedine Zidane. Zidane was just like, no, it was just like watching. It was like a 6'3", 6'4". I was listening to Ryan Giggs' podcast, and he was saying that they were lining up against them in the tunnel when they played Juventus, and Ferguson was telling him he can't move, he's slow. He doesn't do this, just to get in his head, and obviously big them up a little bit. But he said, I looked at him, he was just a monster. He said he had everything. He's got these big size 13 feet or whatever he had. He was just his balance, coordination. But yeah, that was a player for me that was awe-inspiring.
I would certainly say he was one of my favourite players, and I like Juve in Italy, and so that that because of Baggio, and then later Zidane. So he's a poetry in motion playing football, but. Yeah, those two, Messi, Maradona, the standouts for me.
Yeah, brilliant. So if we look at early years, then you've had a few Welsh Prem clubs. Just looking at the clubs you've actually played for, and looking back at it, are there any regrets from your playing career in terms of with your ability, your goals, your work rate? Do you think that you should have played at a high level and done more?
I think if I played now, I would have, because the social media exposure you get now, it's crazy. If you scored 3 on the weekend, it'll go viral. Scoring will put a little clip together, and the next thing you know, 10,000 people have seen it. Well, if you're scoring 3, 2, 4, consecutive weeks,
I agree.
then all of a sudden people are going, this kid's on the TV or on the internet, I should say, every week. So I think if what I did happened now, I think you'd be gone quite quickly. The thing for me was that I didn't, in our day, you probably had to chase it a bit more than you do now. And I didn't chase it because I was in the fire service. I just joined when I started to score these goals. So my first golden boot was 2005, 2006. I joined the fire service in 2005. So they coincided, and I didn't feel I could leave the fire service, to be quite frank, to go and play for someone for a few £100 a week and hope that I would do well enough to then become, a fully fledged professional footballer. I nearly went to Switzerland, but that didn't work out for various reasons. But then the outcome from that was to sign a 2.5-year contract with Llanelli. And I hear different things about Swansea were interested, but Llanelli wanted X amount, and the different rumours I hear. They may all be a load of rubbish, I don't know. But my take on it was that I signed a contract, and if they didn't want to sell me or listen to what offers, then that's their prerogative. That I signed it for me, and they signed it for them.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Some people say, no, I've got no regrets. Some people say, yeah, do you know what? I think I've underachieved. Maybe could have done this, could have done that. But obviously there's no good thinking about it, but it's just that gut feeling you have, when after you finish playing, thinking, what if I'd have done that? But no, everyone.
I think my journey is different to most people who play in the Welsh Prem, in that the Welsh Prem was the pinnacle for me when I got there, and then obviously I went on then and played for Plymouth, and that became the pinnacle. But it just went up and up and up. If you look at most people, they start at a professional club.
Yeah.
Doesn't work out. They come to the Welsh Prem, and then they either sink or swim. People either can't handle it because it's a tough league, or they end up becoming really good players. For me, I was playing Cardiff and District when I was 18. I left the Cardiff and District side to go to Cwmbran when I was 20. So I was at Cwmbran, and I was over the moon to be there, whereas a lot of players, I'm at Cwmbran, I used to be at Cardiff kind of attitude. So I didn't, from that perspective, my journey has always been one which has been was upwards, really.
Yeah.
My regrets, if I've got any, come from later. Now, I must say that the sequence of events means that I ended up having my children when I did, and I ended up at Penabont when I did. So all those decisions I made have led to really good things. But I probably should, as an individual, I probably shouldn't have left Plymouth when I did. The manager got sacked, new manager came in, didn't know me, said I could go. I didn't particularly like him as a person. I didn't think he was, I didn't think he treated people correctly. So that got my back up, and I'm quite strong-willed, and so I didn't like him particularly. So then as soon as he said you can go, I got my knickers in a twist and I was going. Yeah. Then I went to Newport, loved it, my time at Newport. Obviously we won the conference playoff to get back in the Football League. The group that were there, I loved being around them. It was, again, a sink or swim environment because it was quite a poisonous changing room. Yeah, but in a good way. Banter was relentless. But it was just in Edinburgh. Yeah. And I shouldn't have left there when I did. But again, Justin said that he didn't want me there anymore. I was injured all the time. In all fairness to him, I was injured all the time and I hardly played. But once he said he didn't want me there, and the way he did it, I didn't believe was correct. I was out the door, because the way I am, again, it was going to be like two bulls, you know. Yeah. So I probably should have stuck it out, because I would have had opportunities, because they signed people who, the players that were there were good. Connor Washington's gone on and had a good career, and Aaron O'Connor was a good player, Christian Jolly, but they signed a lad, Remy something from Torquay, I think it was, and he was out of shape. He was a bad pro. You'll know the phrase. So I would have had opportunities if I'd stayed. The other thing, it's not so much from a playing perspective, but I fell out with Justin, and I think he died in the November. In the May, I saw him and I blanked him, and even though I to this day he didn't treat me right when I left the club. I regret not sorting out with him, saying hello, putting it behind me because it's football. And then, of course, when he passed away, it was, for me, it was quite confusing, quite a confusing thing. So, but ultimately, like I said, the decisions I've made, the offers I've turned down and the offers I've accepted, good or bad, have led me to where I am today. And in particular, in football terms, Penabon, and I'm really happy there. So no regrets.
That's good. And like, I've got a little bit here about you as a player. I always remember you on at your teammates. Always remember you wanted to be it was as if like you were already thinking about coaching and managing, even though you were in their team. You were their captain, you were their goal scorer, their talisman. But if they weren't giving you everything, you'd be onto that. You'd be like, proper. They'd have it off you, like I was. I mean, I'm an introvert. I'm a quiet lad off the pitch. On the pitch, I wanted everyone to be the best, and I'd tell them. I could see the same in you, where any little like laziness, you'd be onto them, and then they'd be giving it back to you. And it was, I like that. I like that team spirit. I like that bond, and I could see that in you as a player. What sort of team at Llanelli? What time did you think you had that team spirit and that work rate and that desire that sort of was aligned with your thinking?
I think the core, we always had it. Stuart Jones, Antonio Corbusiero, Lee Phillips. I could go on. Chris Venables, of course. There are other names, and forgive me for leaving them out if they're watching. But I think just the way I am as a person is I tend to just be aggressive at times. That's just the way I am. And uncompromising, righteous, which is not always a good thing. And that meant that, I was on my teammates all the time. Now, the ones that got to know me and, I became close friends with, the names I've just mentioned, Martin Giles and Lee Jarman with me now, knew me aside from those 90 minutes. They could forgive what I was like on the pitch, accept it for what it was, and then know that, as a person, I had values and that I wasn't that tyrant that I was on the pitch. The ones that didn't get to know me, whether it be their fault, my fault, or no one's fault, it probably still to this day think I can't stand the guy. Arrogant, overly aggressive, always thinks he's in the right, that kind of thing. And when I went to Plymouth, I saw, because that's a pro mentality, which again, you'll understand that. When I went to Plymouth, I saw other people doing the same thing to youngsters. So there's a lad now at City called Isaac Vassell. Such a great person and a real athlete as well. If people know what a muscle up is, I said to him one day, do you know what one is? And he just did it off the bat, whereas I've been practicing for a month. So it's just a great lad, top athlete. And he was getting the aggression that I was showing at Llanelli from players at Plymouth. And I looked at it and I thought, this is not right. And for years, I realised that I was doing it too much and going too far, because I would threaten people. It wasn't just pulling things.
Any bust ups along the way in the dressing room and training ground? Not really.
Not really. I don't. Yeah, I think like some people. I'm sure if I'd been in a. Oh, I had one with Lee John once, like Lee John, but it wasn't really a bust up. I just lost my temper and I lashed out. But and Lee, luckily, he forgave me. I think he did anyway. But no, I think some people. I'm sure if I'd been in the changing room with, I'm trying to think of some people now, like a Ken McKenna or Gary Brabham springs to mind. Finley, who was the ABBA guy, who was the manager at ABBA. Just these. I'm sure we would have ended up fighting, but yeah, no one ever came at me really.
So I remember playing against that Llanelli side, top side. Always used to enjoy playing on that pitch, nice and flat. Good stadium stuff as well. Welsh Premier misses those clubs. It's a shame, that there aren't many more around and stuff. So, what in terms of how things are like now to back then? Did you enjoy the bonding, the team bonding, a few beers, get-togethers and things like that? with Llanelli? Was that a...
That's Llanelli I did. Again, I just settled there. I met people who just, I don't know, we took the time to get to know each other, perhaps because I was involved in European trips and different things. I just clicked with them in a way that I probably didn't click at other clubs. And that's not, I was happy at every club I'd been at, probably, apart from probably Carmarthen. That just didn't work out. But even at Port Talbot, great lads. And I was worried about leaving the lads at Port Talbot to go to Llanelli, although I had no chance to do it. But I didn't enjoy going, I never went out for a drink with the boys at Port Talbot. I remember them having an end of season do. I didn't go. They probably would have, I probably took myself too seriously at that time. And yeah, they used to stop, the Port Talbot boys, they used to stop. We used to go to North Wales, whether it be TNS or Bangor, whoever. And on the way back, you'd get to Newtown and they'd start chanting, Rhyada, la la la, Rhyada, la la la. What that meant was they wanted to stop in Rhyada and have a drink in the pubs there.
Yeah.
And I'd be on the bus. And they'd say, the driver would say, oh, we can't, I've got to get back, you know, my wife's expecting me. And they'd say, whip round. And they next thing you know, they've got 50 quid together for the driver. Come on, give us a ride. Well, I'd say to the driver, I'll give you 100 to get home. You know, I was desperate to get home.
Yeah.
And they'd go in the pub, honest, that they'd go into the pub and they'd have a drink and I'd just be not on the bus. And then in the end, what I used to do was drive to Ryder and meet the bus there so that when they stop there, I get them.
Yeah.
So they probably used to think I take myself too seriously, and maybe I did, but once I went to Llanelli, somehow I was able to take myself seriously, but still enjoy. And we had, you know, at Llanelli, the board, we had some great nights out and weekends away and probably weeks away as well. So great times, yeah.
It does build rapport, you know. It's different now to the modern game. You have to be careful, certainly going from playing to doing that and then becoming a coach and a manager, because you have to stand aside from it. I don't, you know, from my point of view, being assistant manager, then manager, you know, you can't get too involved with the players because there's a line and you have to have that sort of, yes, let them do that, I'll step away from it, like, you know. And I think some of my players, obviously, that I had at TNS, knew what I was like as a player. I'd be telling them on Christmas Eve, look, don't be having a drink today, I don't want you drinking today. You know, it's important that we've got a game Boxing Day, knowing full well that they'd be going, hang on a minute, we know you still have a drink, we know this about you or whatever, so don't be giving it the righteous one. If I want a drink, I'll have it. And I could see that in some of them, like, but that's the difference between playing with them and then being a coach and manager. We'll go on to that later, obviously, in your management bit, but yeah, I think cultures have changed, haven't they? Cultures of 10, 15 years ago have certainly changed to now the modern day, where a lot more players are looking after themselves and they have to be fitter, don't they? So, yeah.
You know, when I bumped into a centre half who was at Cumbrawney called Richard David. I bumped into him a couple of years ago. Hadn't seen him since I left Cumbrawn, probably. And he passed a comment that when I arrived at Cumbrawn, although I didn't do much at Cumbrawn, to be quite honest, I was learning my trade. He said, you were different when I turned up. You were an athlete, you were dedicated, you knew what to eat. You know, the fitness levels you had compared to everyone else were on another level. Now, yeah, I still like to think I would stand out as I was there now if I was playing now, but there are other people now who are closer. You know, everybody's got a six-pack in the change room now, or near enough. Back then, they didn't. But those players, they still knew their way around, and they could still get around the pitch. And
absolutely,
a different breed, but strengths and weaknesses to both generations, I suppose.
Okay, then we'll wrap up your time as a player in a minute. But highlights for you as a player? Give me 2 or 3, maybe something from Europe and your playing career.
Just so many, you know. Scoring my first goal for Cumbrawn against Port Talbot. It was a League Cup game, but I'd had a tough start, and to score a goal was great. To go to Port Talbot and actually win a Golden Boot. I won the Golden Boot away at Rhyl because I heard that Mark Lloyd-Williams had been dragged by Ken McKenna, and Mark needed a hat-trick to catch me, I think. So, you know, we were getting beat by Rhyl. I think Rhyl finished 2nd or 3rd that year. and we were fourth. And this whispers, Griff, Mark Lord Williams has been dragged. You know, and has he scored? No. And I knew I'd done it. And at that point, I didn't think I'd ever do it again. I thought that was my year kind of thing. So that was special. My first goal for Llanelli away in Europe, in Sweden, it was a diving ear. And looped over the keeper. But it made me feel like I've scored in Europe. I'm on another level now. There's not many people who have done this in the Welsh Prem. But just another step in believing that I was what I'd been telling everyone I was. Just my whole time at Llanelli and obviously, and then Plymouth as well was to score. 15 minutes into my debut, I scored, and at 20 minutes I was injured. But there's so many, and I'll come off this podcast now and think, I should have mentioned this, should have mentioned that. And sometimes they're the most, like I say, the first goal for Cwmbran, no one remembers that goal except me. But at the time, it was, I remember a good friend of mine, Richard Carter, was playing, and he knew what it meant to me, and he ran up and was jumping on me, and everyone's thinking, it's only League Cup, we're already winning. Why is he getting so excited? But yeah, it was a special moment.
Good. And probably a lot of people won't know this, but like TNS, it'd been nice to have played with you, but we did try and get you at one time, as you'll be aware, towards probably the back end of your career, when I was on the coaching side. We did have maybe a discussion about it, but didn't work out for whatever reason, did it? But I would say it would have been very nice to put a few balls into you and put a few free kicks and corners onto your head, and maybe it would have been nice to link up, but wasn't to be. But yeah, definitely one of the best players I've played on the pitch with and against, and you can just see in people their determination, drive, and to do it for so long. You can do it for 1 year, but to continue doing it is fantastic. So hats off to you there, mate.
Yeah, I remember playing one game at TNS and you'd hammered us. In those days, teams didn't know how to cope with the passing. Now teams are adapting, and the managers are it's not a new thing now, and we're able to perhaps stop it to some degree. But in those days, we didn't know what to do, and you were keeping the ball, you were 1-0 up, and then all of a sudden Jason Bowen put one across. They talk about players, Jason Bowen, what a player, and also what a guy. But ball gets crossed in, I score header, and I remember walking back to the halfway line and you saying, you'd score some goals in this team. But yeah, it didn't work out. I remember buying some white and green boots, and I was training with Llanelli, and they were all over it. I didn't, I just bought a nice pair of boots, but they were saying he's off the TNS because the rumours were bubbling. Yeah, it didn't happen, and probably the biggest reason was that I wasn't going to move to Shrewsbury.
Yeah. Okay, mate. So we're looking at management now, and obviously you'd have taken a lot of what you put into your early development as a coach and as a manager. You'd have got things from Andy Legg, Nico, other managers that you'd have played under. What are the best bits from those managers that you've taken, and have you got any stories about things that they've done that you probably think, what are they doing, or some really good things that you think, these know what they're doing, these are tactically ahead of their time, whatever.
Yeah, I think you take bits from all of them. They're good and bad in all of them. Talk about just in Edinburgh. We obviously, like I said, we fell out, and I regret that. But in and around the game, his intensity before the game and at half time was amazing. He'd get you up for it, but he wasn't shouting. He used to rock back and forth. I can't even explain it, but it was a natural thing. You can't, if you try and create that, it won't work for me. But yeah, he was brilliant. I thought Nico was brilliant at half time. Nico was very old school, and there are some funny stories about Nico and stuff. But at half time, they talk about that game in Europe we lost. We won, and I scored the diving ear. We came in at half time 1-0 down, and I'm thinking, and everyone's probably thinking, oh, oh, it's only 1-0, we're in Europe, you know, we're not going to get disgraced here. He went ballistic. He made a change at half time, which he brought Jakub Migrance on, who was another great player. And Jakub scored the winner, I think. And we won 2-1. So Nico was great at half time. He used to have a piece of paper with his notes in his hand, and he used to smash his hand on the notes. And yeah, he was intense. Wayne Davis at Port Talbot, great people manager. You know, he's a great guy, and I still speak to him now once a month. And yeah, just a great person, and understood people. Darren Brace again, another great person, and understood how to. I wanted to play for those two, you know, as people. Leggy got great staff with him.
Yeah.
You know, Steve Jenkins is a top football man, and Leggy got him with him, and that was super, like, really important that he did that. And probably Nico, no disrespect, but probably never had that with him.
He did a lot of it on his own, yeah.
Yeah, he did, and he did have help, but I mean, yeah, the guy called Terry with him was a great guy, but I mean, you know, he'd probably, to have someone like Steve Jenkins with you, and Steve's a good manager on his, you know, by his own rights, was really important for Leggy. So yeah, you take good and bad from all of them, but I think ultimately who you are is what's important, and you can watch Justin Edinburgh and you can think, wow, he's so good at halftime. I know it's important to be. I now know how important halftime is, or I know how important it is to be intense at the right moments. But you can't copy his intensity if it's not in you.
No, of course
and
not.
I'm not someone who's constantly intense in the changing room. It's just not me to be that way, and I won't fake it. I've had a manager come in at halftime, water bottles on the floor, just tapped them with his foot. Yeah, they're empty. 2 minutes later, he volleyed them. So he checked they were empty before he volleyed them.
Premeditated, yeah.
So then you know it's fake, you know. And I think, and I'm honest. Honesty is a massive thing for me,
yeah.
And I'm honest with the players, and that honesty means that I'm not going to pretend to lose my temper just because it's not going well. The amount of times I've been thinking, my head's going here at half time, my head's going, and then we score just before half time, and it just diffuses me. And I come in and I say, I was going to go mad, but I can't, because you know, I've calmed down, and you were back in it, and you know, so I've learned from loads of them, but ultimately I am an individual.
Yeah. Well, they say, don't they, 70% man management, 30% tactical. So if you're looking back then, and then the names you've mentioned, and you're saying about these managers, they know the group, they know the players, they know how to deal with different personalities. Some players need arms round, don't they? Some players, you shout at some players, you'll lose them for the second half. There's no point in shouting at them. So it's a way of managing players, isn't it?
At Port Talbot, I missed most of pre-season with Wayne Davis because I joined the fire service and I didn't want to get injured during my recruits course. So I missed a lot of the pre-season. Me and Wayne were talking about this the other day, and I turned up to the last pre-season friendly, which was in Neath, I think, somewhere in Neath. And I was on the side, but I'd taken my boots, and I said to Wayne, "Oh look, I know the course is nearly finished now. They're not going to kick me off again injured. Can I have the last 20 minutes?" And I went on and I played 20 minutes, and I scored a one or assisted, or I'm not really sure. After the game, he's pulled us together, and in that 20 minutes, I was also quite greedy. You know, I hadn't played all pre-season. I want to score and trying to do tricks I didn't have and different things. So, and he's pulled us together, and he said, "That guy there is greedy. He doesn't pass when he should pass. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. He's moaning at everyone. He's missed all the pre-season. But my God, we're better when he's in the team." And in that one paragraph, he's told me that he's not really happy with the way I played in terms of greed, but my chest came out, and he knew. You know, people say it's good to have competition for places, and I get that to an extent, but not me. If I need to know I'm the main man when I'm playing. So yeah, it is important.
Yeah, good. So if you then go into transitional, going from, when did you think, yeah, I'm going to be a coach, I want to be a manager? Or did you always think, yes, this is in me?
Yeah, I probably always thought I might end up doing it. Players used to say to me, I remember Adrian Harris saying to me, we were out on a night out and I was a player, and he said, "You look like the manager. You know, just leant against the bar, not really jumping on tables or, you know." But Oshin Roberts rang me one day and just said, "Look, we got a B course starting. Are you up for it?" And I was renovating a house at the time, and I was, I can't, you know, I don't know. And he said, "Come on, get on the course. It'd be good for you." So he pushed me to do it. I did it. B license intensive, great experience, probably the best experience of the courses. Arguably, the pro license was good as well. A year later, then I'm thinking, I got my B done. You know, I'll sit on that for a few years now. Oshin rings me again. I was renovating another house, believe it or not. I can picture it now. I was on my hands and knees, and he phoned me again and says, "Look, A license is starting. Let's get you on it." And again, I was like, "No, I can't. No, I don't need this right now." And he said, "No, come on, get on it." So once, but I'm the type of person that once I'm doing my A license, I'm going to become a coach or a manager. I'm not doing it for the sake of it.
Yeah. No point.
I'm not just. I'm doing everything for a reason, and I'm on this course. So once I was on the course, I was going to do it. So I think initially I probably just wanted to stay in the game, wanted to keep earning. But once I was actually at Penabont, and I'd coached for years before that, but not really enjoyed it, to be honest with you, to a full extent. But once I was at Penabont, it just all of a sudden it all clicked, and my focus totally turned, and I've loved every minute there.
Did you obviously transition the players you'd have played with them and then gone into management, but did you think, right, I need to change the way I behave? Or did you just think, right, I've been like that as a player, I'm just going to go in and if they know me, if I've played with them, I'm just going to do exactly the same, but I'm going to be the manager. Did you
yeah, I don't think I needed to change much. If anything, needed to soften my approach. Owain Waller was the only player who was with me that had played with me for a prolonged period, so probably knew me well. And then Dwayne Saunders was actually a player and then became a physio because he was injured. He knew me, but again, he didn't know me for that long. So I didn't really need to change anything. It felt very natural to go in and become a manager. And we came second in that first season. The season before I took over, they stayed up on goal difference. The first season we finished second, and that was the year Barry got promoted. And we won the last 9 games, I think. So we just ran out of time. But I remember thinking, if the club's ready, I'm ready, and we'll go up to the Welsh Prem, and we'll be mid-table. And that's my mindset. Is that little degree of arrogance. I hate to say the word, but I felt I could do the job. Now I came up then. Another 2 seasons later, and I realised that first season I wouldn't have been ready, and we would have got relegated 100%. So yeah, you know, but my mindset is that I'm always going to be okay. That's just the way I am. But yeah, learning curve across my first few seasons, and then of course we had a great season to finish unbeaten.
Yeah, really good. Breath of fresh air. I think your players, like I've told you, you know, personally, privately, very good. They play for you. Some are young, some are experienced, but you've got a good balance. You've got a good mix. You know, you've got some bright players there, and they buy into it. You know, when I first spoke to you on the pro license about how you play and stuff, because I'd probably not seen Penny Bont, you were saying we play football, and we'll continue to play football in the Welsh Prem, and that's you know, and that's what you've done, and you stuck to it, and you know, you've got a very good side. And this year, you can see how, you know, you're slowly climbing that table and becoming a very good side. So, as a manager, 3 non-negotiables for you. What don't you tolerate? What don't you let the players get away with? In terms of what your beliefs are.
I think the honest answer to that, and I'm probably going against answers I've given in the past, but we're all evolving all the time. The answer to that is nothing is non-negotiable. I think if you're not prepared to negotiate to some degree, then you're not going to get very far. So what I mean by that is, if someone argues with me and they do it in the wrong way, I'm not going to get rid of them. You know, they're obviously, there's always a line.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not just going to go, oh, he's effed at me, he's gone. But I'm going to let him know that that's never going to happen again. And then eventually, if it keeps happening, you get rid. But yeah, I think you've got to be able to negotiate all of your principles to some point. So you know, you're a manager. There's a manager or a coach, a teacher, he called himself, called John Wooden. I don't know if you're aware of him, but fascinating guy to look into. And he was about creating better, basketball, and he was about getting better people, creating better people. So, and that's not to say that I'm a great person and I'm a finished article by any means, but if you can, across the journey, some of the people who've been with me from the start to now, you know, they're men now, and they're, you know, the values and they're ethically sound, and that's because of everything. And football's been a part of that with us. So you can't give up on people because they don't meet your values straight away. But at the same time, they have to be on that journey and they're going in the right direction. And if you look at someone and you think, yeah, great player, but if he comes in, he's not going to meet our values ever, then you can't sign them. And I've had good players, talented boys, make it clear they want to come to us. And I spoke to the coaching staff and I said, nah, he's not for us, because he's not going to buy into it. Even in 6 months' time or a year's time, he still won't have bought into it. But to answer your question the way you probably wanted me to, I think honesty is really key. If I find out people are lying to me, then or even lying in not being honest in a football sense, then I find I struggle with that. Because I'm honest with them, and I'll tell them if I've made a mistake, if I think I have, which I don't think I have that often, but I will if I do. And I need them to when they've made a mistake, be honest with themselves, look at it. We had an example recently, I'm not going to name the name, but I picked out a player at half time or full time and said, you did this in the game. And he said, no, I didn't. That's not how it happened. And I said, okay, fine, we'll let it go. I'm telling you we did, but we'll let it go. And then I showed him the footage and he came to me out straight away and he went, yeah, you're right, you were right. And I love that. Yeah. I love that because he's got that honesty with me and himself. But there's other times when I said this happened and then no, it didn't. And I say it did, and I'll show you Tuesday. And then when I show him, I've said it wasn't exactly as I thought. When I watched it back, you were probably in the right, or it's certainly a grey area. So honesty is a massive one. Basic values, you know, I talk about the values of the club. We're a great club because we've got great people involved at the club. That's what makes a great club. It's not about history or number of supporters. It's about the people running the club and the people involved with the club, which of course includes the supporters. And we're a great club, and the values of the club are really important to me. So the way you behave around the place, the way you treat the facilities, just general politeness, saying hello to people. Yeah. Again, I talk about my Man City experience. I got a young player who was deemed to be a superstar in the making, comes up to me and shakes my hand, doesn't know who I am, probably had shaked 50 hands that day, because that's a club mentality. He wouldn't do it now, he'd have to sanitize, but that's the club mentality. And I want us to be, as a club, my thing is welcoming off it, horrible on it. And that's the way I want us to, the impression you get of us. And then it's just the work ethic. You've just got to work hard. And if you work hard, you know, you'll go far, which is what so far this season, we've had a good season because we've worked so hard. There's no magic wand. Yeah.
So because you're part-time, whatever, you've got a couple of lads that can't make training Tuesday, Thursday. How do you draw the line of, they'll play, or are they the best players so I need them to play? Or do they miss out because other lads have trained Tuesday, Thursday and deserve to play? How does that situation occur? Has that occurred to you?
Yeah, we're 10:20 now on a Friday morning, and we trained last night and I couldn't make it because I was in work. So Lee Jarman and Martin Giles took the session. We discussed in the day what we wanted to cover. They've then got discretion to change it based on what they see. It's not a dictatorship by any means, but we had a chat and they've done the session. I can't then turn around to other people and say, you're not playing because you were working. But it has to be an honest reason. Yeah. and they have to communicate with me. So if it's because your wife works in the NHS and she works nights and there's nothing you can do, then it's an honest reason. Keep performing, and you can stay in the team to a degree. If you're getting outperformed because you're not training, then we got a different issue. But as long as they're training and they're being honest with their reasons, then that's fine. If I ever found out that someone had said to me, "Oh, I got a funeral," or something like that. Funeral's probably a bad example, actually, but this has happened, I can't train, and then I find out it's because they've been out.
That goes back to honesty and trust and everything else,
This comes back to the honesty, because I'm not an ogre, and if you say to me, "Look, it's my mum's 50th birthday and it's so important to me that I'm there," I get it.
Vital. I think it's vital. I think if someone phones you up and says, "You know what, I need a day off today for a reason," I've done it in the past. People come to me, knocked on the office, come in. Look, I can't come in. I need to look after my children. I can't get any babysitters. No problem. Just make sure that you do a little jog later when your missus comes home. And on a Saturday, you know that person's going to go, "Well, do you know what? He's been all right with me." He hasn't said, "No, you've got to come in." You get nowhere like that, do you? So it's personal skills, soft skills, whatever it's called nowadays. I think it's vital in this modern day and age. Okay, mate. So we go to Welsh Prem now. Who's going to win the Welsh Prem? 2 games to go, 2 points in it. Who's going to win? Put you on the spot.
Wow. Connah's have got to play us, so they've got a tougher task. They're probably thumpers now. No, I don't. I don't know. I think you look at both of them; they both look like they're not going to lose. Obviously, we're in that conversation because we're going to play Connah's Quay. We tried to do Connah's Quay a favour on Tuesday, and for an hour, I thought we did a really good job of it. And then, to be quite honest with you, 2 high quality goals ended the game really. So yeah, that was frustrating for us. But and then we'll try and do the same now. We'll try and do TNS a favour on the last day by holding or beating Connah's Quay. I don't think they'll look at coming to us as, "Oh, that's a nice game to go to for our last day." I think Connah's Quay will think, that could have been easier. But at the same time, knowing Andy and his staff, they'll relish the chance that they're coming to a team that have caused them problems in recent times. He's not there; they won't shy away from that challenge either. So, oh man, am I going to sit on the fence? I don't know. Honestly, it wouldn't be an honest answer. I really don't know who's going to win it, because
I'll tell you what I think. I think TNS will win it on goal difference.
Well, goal difference could be really important. And I've talked to our team about the importance of our goal difference, because ours is better than Barry's. And if we want to finish 4th, that goal difference could be really important. So to let you into my psyche, when we go 2-0 down against TNS the other day, do I go 3-4-3 or 3-3-4 or 2-4-4 and try and then risk losing 5?
Yeah.
As a manager, my duty to my club is goal difference is more important than this kamikaze approach. So goal difference could really come down to it. Or it could come down to it, but who knows? I really don't know. It's exciting. It's great. And fair play to Connah's Quay for closing the gap.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll see. There's 2 games to go. It's exciting end to the season. Okay, last question. One player that you could have from any team in the league to go into your team. Give me a few names, but then choose one person you'd like to see in your team right now.
I'm going to offend managers now, aren't I, across the league? I think right now there's the 2 that really jump out at me are Venables and Brobble. I think they're the 2 best players in the league. I think Venables is, like I said, he's in the conversation for the best ever Welsh Premier player. To be the best midfielder, in my opinion, he was at one time, and then he was a goal scoring 10, and now he's the best centre forward, in my opinion. So Venables has got to be in there. And then Brobble is he's a huge talent, and I think if he hadn't been injured, if he hadn't been injured, I think TNS would have been winning the league.
I said to someone yesterday, if Brobble hadn't been injured, I wouldn't have probably been doing this podcast right now.
So aren't you happy that he was injured? Yeah, no, yeah, you're probably right. And I think he's a great player, and his free kick against us the other day was just another level of free kick to what we see scored in the Welsh Prem. So I've seen some free kicks scored in recent weeks, and don't get me wrong, they're good free kicks, but that one just looks different, and I think he's a top player. So yeah, those are the two that stand out. I think there's top players across the league, and I'm not gonna, I've obviously got targets. I'd love to sign people who are probably more realistic targets. So I'm not going to insult people by naming them. And there are players outside the league as well who are good. But I say if you were to maybe nail one, I think Venice is. And I think I've got two centre forwards with me, Ben Arman, who I think is, in terms of channel running, is as good as you'll see in the Welsh Prem. You talk about Ebb and Roscoe as probably channel runners. He's as good as them at doing that job. And he's a real handful. And then we've got Sam Snaith, who's a monster of a man, but he's agile, he's got good feet, and I see bits of myself in him in terms of his determination. He wants to score goals. So I got two great centre forwards, and to have someone like Venice to just, in a more informal way, just say, try this, do this, you might want to do that, I noticed you did this. That's great, because we've got Ishmael Yakubu with us now, who was in that conference winning team at Newport with me. He actually played, I didn't. And he's teaching, you can see him pull aside Billy Borge and Dan Jeffries and saying, look, I noticed you did this, you want to try this. And it's great for us to have a more informal coach in a way. So yeah,
it's what the All Blacks do, don't they? Yeah, they pass the shirt on, they give information to the next centre midfielder coming through, the next winger coming through. Don't feel it as a threat, they feel it as like they're passing the shirt on to somebody else, giving the information, don't they? I think it's vital to have those characters in your club.
And the other thing as well, and Colin, if you're watching, I know he's got another year, so it's not on the horizon, and I can't afford him anyway. But I know Venice as a person, and that's hugely important to me. Before I sign anyone, I want to know what they're like as a person. Sometimes you don't get to know them properly, and you take a punt. But I certainly try and do a bit of research on what they're like as people. And obviously, Venice is a great lad. So, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully get him on here soon. I have sent a message to him. So, who else would you like to see on here then? Griff, last question. Who else do you think's got some good stories? And
I'm going to drop a few. I tell you, Lee Jarman. I'd like to see Lee Jarman in an informal environment is one of the funniest people you ever meet.
Yeah.
But whether he'd be like that on here, I don't know. So I'll drop him in it now, and he'll be saying why haven't you dropped Gilo in it? Who else? Wyn Thomas would be entertaining. Wyn Thomas would be very entertaining, yeah, and he's as honest as they come. He's not always right, and you can tell him I said that, but yeah, Wyn would be entertaining. Other than that, you got me there. Craig Hughes, Guppy.
Well, we have had, a couple of his mates messaged on Twitter, and he put himself. He said, he did actually say after the big hitters he'll come on, but I'm sure he's got a few great stories to share, so we'll get him on as well.
Yeah, huge character, and if he does come on, see if he'll tell you about the lasagna, and that's a story. Not particularly funny, I don't suppose, but he always gets into it. So yeah.
Thanks for your time, mate. It's been great. Best part of probably an hour. So thanks for coming on, and all the best for the rest of the season. And hopefully we'll speak soon. All right, mate.
I got my pajamas on under here. You can't see it. I'll take my jumper off now, and I'm back in my PJs.
Good luck. All right, mate.
Take care, mate. Bye-bye.
Mate. Okay, bye.